Hello and welcome to the Creative Academy. This is our quarterly retreat where we're going to check in. Nice to see everyone back here. I'm going to kick us off with Crystal, who's going to talk to us about what the 12-week year is and remind those of us who know. And in case anyone doesn't know, you get a little chance to learn about it. Take it away, Crystal.
All right. So we had set the 12-week year as something that we were going to test out. And it's a concept from business productivity books that I have been always reading. And the idea behind it is that when you have that kind of crunch at the end of the year, you tend to get more done in the last 12 weeks, like you hit November, even October, and you start to think about January 1st is coming. Often you've had all these New Year's resolutions you've made, and you're kind of scrambling then to kick into high gear and get things done. Or, at the end of the business quarter, or the business year, when it's that final quarter, everybody's driving to hit those targets from the year that they set. So the idea is, what if you compressed a year, instead of it being a 12-month year, to have it be a 12-week year? And then that way you wouldn't have the 9 months of lollygagging about, we'll say, before you hit crunch time. You'll actually dive right in to getting things done right from the beginning. And it also gives you kind of 4 chances to hit the reset button throughout the year, so that if you do have things that come up, or, stuff changes, that lets you kind of adapt in midstream and not get trapped by then having everything set on such a long time scale. And then if it doesn't work, you feel like you didn't make any progress. But this way, if we break it down into smaller, manageable chunks of 12-week years, it does give us 4 full years worth of productive time, is the idea. So it also makes it easier, I think, to focus in on one thing, which we're going to talk about later a bit. If you know that this is my thing for this season, it's not like this is all I'm going to focus on for the next year, but just this is what I'm going to focus on right now for the next 12 weeks. And it lets you finish and ship things, which is really important to get things actually out the door. And we talked about circles, open circles last time. And so closing those open circles is really important, making sure that you don't have a lot of undone things on your plate, because each of those is an open connection that's using up your energy. Right? Everything you have undone, every project you have started, is something else that your brain is going to think about. So I think it is really important that, we have only the open connections we actively want to be working on, and not that everything is an open connection that's going to disperse our energy out into 1,000 little places and, get no traction whatsoever. So one of the other things we talked about was what kind of goals we're setting. And that's another piece of the puzzle. So, there's a lot of talk about SMART goals, and there's a lot of acronyms. If you go looking online, you'll find a ton of different breakdowns of what a SMART goal is. But for our purposes today, they tend to be traditionally specific, is the S. M is for measurable. So you need to be able to measure what it is you've set as a goal to know if you've accomplished it or not. Actionable. It has to be something you can actually take action on, right? So not just something you wish would happen, but something that you can take steps towards. R is for realistic, and or reasonable. That's another R that sometimes goes in that spot. And it is important that you could actually be able to accomplish the thing, but there's some stretch room in that one. Time-based is T, so it's good to know when you're going to accomplish this thing so that you have some sense of urgency and some realistic way of kind of budgeting your time as you go along, of how long it's going to take to achieve it. Now, stretch goals are a little more fun. I think I probably have a history of setting some of the crazier, more stretchy goals, we'll say. And that's something that I like to do, because if it's not fun and really challenging and I already know I can do it, I usually won't be bothered. And so it is, I think, really important to know yourself and to know, if you can stretch a little further, then you may reach for something that is a little bit crazy, like writing 40 stories by my 40th birthday was a pretty crazy stretch goal, given that there was an 18-month time period involved. And I didn't hit it, but I did hit 11 stories, and I did hit like 50 something products. So, but I never would have got those if I hadn't shot for that, because for the previous 3 years I'd been saying I'm going to write the next book in the series, and that hadn't happened any of those times. So it was because the goal was so big, there was no time to wait until I got closer to the deadline, as I want to do. It was just a matter of diving right in and getting started and just making as much progress as I could as I was going. So I think the stretchy goals have a really good value in kind of unlocking what we see as possible and giving ourselves permission to get outside our comfort zone, to be open to really trying things in a new way, right? Because the way I had been doing it was not going to work to get me from here to there. I knew that. So I needed to explore, okay, how do I write faster, better, more often, more consistently? I needed to learn all those things to make that possible. So it sort of forced me to open up and stretch in that way. So Donna had introduced the concept of smarter goals, and the last ER are exciting and risky. Those were the last two. So personally, I'm quite fond of these smarter goals since it combines, realistic in the sense of like, I want to be able to fly by, next week. Okay, well, if I get in a plane, sure. But like, probably I can't go from, me to Superwoman in an actual week. So that's something to look at, is I might need longer to learn some stuff.
I was going to say, I like that you left it, that flying was an option, just not by next week.
Yeah. So, this is why the specific. There's the essence versus form. The essence is flying through the air. The form might be wings. It might be planes. But yeah, having those smarter goals for yourself where you are setting something that maybe seems like a bit of a stretch, but that might be the excitement you need or the challenge you need to kind of push things through to that next level. So just something to think about as we go through today, where Eileen's going to lead us through some stuff around the circles and the slate and all those good things in a second. But just think for yourself. For some people, setting too big of stretch goals just fills them with anxiety and shuts them down. So we don't want that. And we also don't want you bored if setting really realistic little goals is going to make you be like, I'll go for a walk instead. So you need to know yourself, and you need to keep yourself in mind. There is no right way to do this process. Everyone's lives look completely different. We're all sitting in a screen together. We look very uniform up there, and everybody's got, a wall of some type behind them and a camera in front of them. And we're all sitting at a computer here on a Saturday. So we have all that in common, but that's often about where it ends. So, everyone has to structure what you're setting for yourselves and ourselves for our own lives and for what we are capable of doing and what is going to work for us personality-wise as well. It is meant to be an enhancement to your life, not an obstacle or not to make it harder, but just something to make it better. So definitely just keep that in mind as you're making choices throughout today, that it is only about what is going to work for you. Take what works, discard anything that doesn't, but sit with that line for just a minute before you decide which side of things go on, because a little bit of discomfort is often what's required for growth or change. So you don't want to toss it out immediately. You do want to sit with it for a second before you decide, is it that I actually don't think this will work, or am I scared that it might work? And then make a choice from there. So at that point, I will bounce it back to Eileen, and your turn.
So I'm going to pick up because we got a ooh from Alyssa when we talked about, if something makes you uncomfortable, is it the fear that you might actually get there? And what does that mean? So I think there's something to that that's quite profound. So the first thing that I want us to sort of spend some time thinking about is what we actually have gotten accomplished in the last 12 weeks. Those of you who've been in my office hours in the past few weeks have heard me talk about a concept that I heard that I quite like, called the ta-da list. So we're all very familiar with the to-do list. Some of us have ongoing ones on our desktop all the time that we are constantly working through and checking off. And I think one of the things that can be very difficult or frustrating for people is sometimes you get to the end of the day and life has come in between, and all of the things that were on your list did not get done, or maybe only one or two of them got done. And so it can feel discouraging. And the concept behind the to-do list is at the end of the day, you add to the list other things that you might have done that weren't initially on the list that did get accomplished. So for example, hypothetically, you might be an attractive blonde romance writer living your lovely life in New Westminster with a long list of things that you're going to get done, when suddenly you hypothetically stand up into a pile of water and everything on your to-do list for the next couple of weeks goes off the thing, and you could feel like nothing happened. But the truth of the matter is, suddenly you sorted through everything you owned, moved, reset up things, and did a whole bunch of stuff that you might not have been aware that you accomplished. Or because it wasn't on your list initially, you're not giving yourself credit for it. So what I'd like everyone to do is, on a piece of paper or on your laptop, just make a list of what you accomplished in the last 12 weeks. So what you've accomplished since the new year. Makes me happy to see people writing so many things. So take another minute to add anything else to the list, and I'm going to ask you to star the thing that you're most proud of accomplishing. And that could be because it was your smarterest, I don't know if that's a word, smarterest goal, stretchiest goal, whether it's just the one that you thought would be most difficult for you to reach, something that you've been putting off, but just something that you're most proud of, put a star by it. You can star too, Bonnie, but you're going to have to pick one in a minute. So you're going to have to put 2 stars by something.
Oh my gosh, I thought you were reading my mind until I realized you were talking to the other Bonnie.
Yes, it's a little known skill that I have. It's one of the ones I'm most smart about, Bonnie, is that I can read other people's minds. And I know what you're thinking, Alyssa, so just stop it right now. Can read yours too.
And what was I thinking?
I'm not going to say it in front of everyone and embarrass people. I'm just thinking it. You're quick, Eileen.
Psychic skills you're putting to the use.
I'm trained as a fake psychic. I'm prepared for this.
You think she's joking, but she's not.
Yeah, I actually took classes. I am prepared.
She shared the handouts with me.
Which I have, if anyone else wants to take it up. All right, so what we're going to do is actually go around the room and have people introduce themselves. And we're going to ask you to say your name, what it is that you write, if you write multiple things, maybe what it is that you're working on right now, and the yes, one thing, Bonnie Jacoby, that you start as your favorite or thing that you're the most proud of. So I'm going to start, and then I'll sort of call on people as we go around. So I'm Eileen. I'm writing primarily thrillers, and what I'm most proud about in the last 12 months is finishing a draft of a nonfiction book, actually for the Creative Academy, on character development. So I am most proud about that and looking forward to sharing that. Some little jazz hands there. Now I'm going to go over to Bonnie with an I. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to the...
Because I have 2, and so you don't want me to say 2.
You have to pick one.
So you have to give me some more time to decide.
Okay, well then I'm going to go to the Bonnie with an IE. Putting the pressure on the Bonnies.
I'm Bonnie with an IE, and I write young adult science fiction and fantasy. I'm currently working on a fantasy project, and my yay goal is that I actually finish the revisions of Dragon Girl, which has been retitled. Oh, I'm doing this for myself because I'm so excited.
That's fine. I'm fine with a happy dance. I'm going to go over to Mary Jane. Introduce yourself. Oh, hang on, we have you muted there. There you go.
Unmuted. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane. My focus is on writing for children. I've been writing some picture book manuscripts for the last couple of years, and I have a small pile of manuscripts that I haven't sent out. I keep editing them and changing them all the time. And I have a novelette, I guess you would call that I've been working on. And I guess the thing that I'm most proud of, I guess, is that I revised and improved chapter 1 of my, I did. It's much better than it was before. I've been taking a course online with Neil Gaiman, and it's very inspiring.
I would have guessed so. Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Yay. Let's go over to Crystal.
Okay. I am most proud. Well, I'm CJ Hunt today. I am most proud of finishing writing and editing Dark and Stormy in the last 12 weeks, despite all the rest of the craziness. And yeah, that is another little romance.
Yay. And I always butcher these names, so I'm going to do my best. Alyssa. Don't make me do it again. Just yes, you.
Lisa? Elisa.
Elisa.
Okay, I was like, with the A or with the E? Which one of us is it?
I have the worst time with your names. I don't know why.
Okay, it's fair, and this is why I decided, usually I write mystery suspense under Elisa, but for my first shitty draft of my my first romance, I've changed my name and decided to write that under an alias, and I finished that in the first 12 weeks. Yay! So I'm very excited about that.
You should be, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so I can just butcher it all together. We're going to go to Elisa. Alyssa.
Elisa.
Alyssa. Yeah, Alyssa.
Melissa without the M.
I don't know why I have this problem. It's a block that's now gotten worse. So why couldn't you just have another I or something and I could be, it's Eileen with an I. But okay, go ahead.
So I'm most proud of double minutes week. I had a week where a couple things got canceled and I realized I had a week with a bit more time and I decided to set a big goal of double my normal production and I achieved it. So I'm happy with that.
I think that's a good example of pushing yourself and then being surprised. Like sometimes, again, I think Crystal's point being really valid that sometimes when we really hit something that we didn't think we could, like we're quite surprised at how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know, I find if I keep on track, like if I break it down and I stay on track with the steps, it feels achievable. But as soon as I get behind, it feels impossible and discouraging. So I have to play with that because I do want to keep setting stretch goals to try to, push myself. But then I know that sometimes I set them too high and it just gets discouraging. And then often I kind of fall away to not doing any writing.
Yes. And I think the challenge, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is catching. And I think, what Crystal said was really valuable around like her goal was 40 and she didn't hit that goal, but she did so much more than she would have. So I think sometimes it's making sure that we're looking at what our ta-da, like what we actually did get done. That's why I like the idea of the ta-da list. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to Natasha with her nice, easy to pronounce name.
Hi, I'm Natasha, and I write historical cozy. I'm working on a quote historical cozy mystery series and short stories right now. And what I'm really proud of for the last 12 weeks, which actually wasn't a goal, but it just ended up doing it, is I actually, it sounds more impressive the way I'm going to put it. I tripled my lifetime submissions, which means I had, well, when I tell you the actual numbers, you might not be going, I sent out 2 submissions. So that means that I only ever had 1 out before because I'm, I had a great success with that, and it was so intimidating. I sort of did nothing because there was only downhill from there, kind of thing. So that's what I'm most proud of. So, there we go.
I think you should be. That's a good one. All right, let's go to Kirsten. Wait, we can't hear you, Kirsten.
Sorry, they lied. It said I could just push my space bar and it didn't work. But I'm Kirsten. I primarily write middle grade and YA. And what I'm most proud of in the last 12 weeks, I've actually written 4 short stories, 1 for a contest and 3 for a course, quite a challenging course that I took. And it's a big departure for me. So.
Yay. And nice to do short stories for a change. I think sometimes there's something to be said about a project that you can start and finish. I'm thinking about doing a shorter work for that reason, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm going to go to Donna with the new hair.
Yes.
And a sexy voice.
Sexy voice. So Donna, I write nonfiction, and the thing I'm most proud of in the last 12 weeks is that I have written and posted 5,000 to 10,000 words of articles on a blog. Let's see, I think I've done over 40 at this point. So that's a lot of words. And I have 567 followers, so I'm writing nonfiction every single day.
Woo! Let us go to Marlene.
Hi. So I've been having the 2019 viral tour. So what I'm most proud of is that I recovered, and that in that thank you, I managed to write every day. I thought that was pretty good.
I think that's more than pretty good. I think that is amazing. So that definitely deserves a hand wiggle.
Thank you.
Let's go to Leslie.
I'm most proud of that I'm actually here because I got home at 3 a.m. and I worked 64 hours last week on set. So I'm like, oh my God, I have to get up. This is probably a ta-da goal, but I wanted to write a short story every month. That was one of my stretch goals, and I did that, but I sold 2 of them. So that was super exciting, especially the one to the really nice anthology. So yay.
That is a big yay. Let's go to Tony.
I'm Tony Olivier. I write. I'm writing a thriller series with an unusual protagonist. I've got a male ballet dancer that's caught up in a born identity situation, and I'm working on the sequel. The first one should be published sometime this year if I can get assigned an editor with the publisher. But I'm working on I'm on a 3rd draft of the sequel. And what I'm very proud of is I am writing every day thanks to your awful 7:30 a.m. get out of bed, get in front of your computer thing. Not that I'm bitter or anything about that, but I look at my calendar and go, oh crap, I can actually make this one today. Okay. So I'm writing every day and it's great.
You're welcome, Tony. I think that's what you were looking for. So I will say that you are very welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
We will wake you up anytime. All right.
And
now we're gonna
just for the record, it's our 7:30 terrible thing. It's not just ours. I mean ours and yours too.
Yes, I know.
It's inclusive. All right, I'm gonna go to Bonnie with an I.
Okay, well, everyone's talking about writing, so I'll just do my writing one. And so what I'm most proud of is that I stepped back into a novel. I'm sorry, I write middle grade and picture books and some adult stuff. But what I'm most proud of writing goal-wise is that I went back into one of my old novels that I had just started and never finished. And I outlined it and got back in touch with the person who was my main source of research and got a chance to interview her.
Perfect. That deserves a wiggle as well. All right, so I want people to take a second. Overall, we're going to be focusing quite a bit on going forward, but I think it's useful to take a minute and take a look at what might have gotten in the way for you in the last 12 weeks. So take a moment and just do some short bullet points about what it was that maybe stalled you out, whether it was something in your life, whether your house flooded or you had sick kids or you had the viral tour, which is understandable as well. So any of those kinds of things, just take a moment and just sort of bullet point what things might have gotten in your way. Now take a look at your list that you have and see if there is any way that you are going to either try and solve this problem going forward, if there's a new way that you're going to tackle it. Now, it's possible something got in your way that there's just nothing that you can do about it. It just happened. But if there is anything new that you want to put in your way, because of course, unfortunately, things are always coming up. So if you have any new strategies or things that you're going to do to sort of tackle those things that got in your way. So take a moment. And if you don't finish that, that might be something that you might want to go back to. Again, when we're at the end of today, is just thinking about how you're going to tackle those hiccups that unfortunately always do come up. All right, and the next thing I'm going to have you do is to take a couple minutes and think about the list that you had at the first 12 weeks. Is there anything that did not get accomplished that you still want to be working on? So are there any open circles, as Crystal would call them, that are still existing from your previous 12 weeks? So it could be that they just became less important. Could be that you finished them off, but is there anything that was incomplete that you still want to do? And to take a minute to figure out what might need to get tackled to do that. Okay. So is there anyone who wants to share an idea they have of how they're going to sort of tackle some of the challenges? Anyone have something they think will work well for other people? I'm going to reinstitute, which I started and then got away from, blocking off time to work on particular things, particularly early in the morning. I find if I do things early in the morning, I'm much more likely to do it, even if it's just saying, I'm going to put an hour into this. And then if that's all that gets done on it that day, at least an hour got worked on, which is a great time to use those, as Tony loves them, those early morning sprints. So if nothing else, saying I'm going to work on this for the next hour. And we always do send it up as a sprint time, but that could be a time to be researching publicity spots or blogs or researching, ads or various things. Like, you can use that time however you want. Anyone else have a strategy that they're going to give a go to? Oh, God, I have to call on her. Melissa without an M.
So I got a little derailed in January when I burnt my foot and missed out on the best snow of the year. And I had a bit of a pity party where I didn't write for a bit. And I get angry at myself because I didn't feel like writing, and then I wasn't writing, and then it turned into a week of not really writing, and then 2 weeks of not really writing. So I kind of want to make sure I don't kind of go in that spiral again. So last week I was surprised at work when my colleague quit, so I would have to be training someone new, which is normally my writing time is my work time. So I kind of tried to say, okay, well, I'll just take an easier week, and I'll plan to just not write this week and just take a break. It was kind of like looking at it as a break instead of like, oh, well, why aren't you writing? So I didn't try to force myself, and I just kind of enjoyed the break and reading some more books and stuff. And I think that's good because now I'm energized to get back into writing now.
Yeah, and I see in the chat window, you're also a big fan, Alyssa. Yeah, okay, good. Blocking off time. So I think it is a really valuable tip, and probably one of the biggest ones. And I think I speak for both Donna and Crystal that we were both surprised. We didn't think that the writing sprints would necessarily be that popular. So for us, it was this weird thing where it's like people keep showing up. Oh shit, that means we're going to have to keep doing it. And it was Crystal's bright idea because it was summer and it was sunny at the time. And in the winter, we hated her for it. But it is something that has been, I think, one of the best things because it is that sort of block of time off. And I think you provided a nice segue because we're going to also talk about the importance of sort of having some positive thinking. So if you are getting derailed, what you say about that and how you treat that, whether or not you say like, okay, this life event has come up and so I have to deal with this right now and I'm doing an awesome job of dealing with it, is important. We've talked before about the cycle of writing, and we often only give ourselves credit for words on the page. But there's also a lot to be said for things that are happening in the back of our brains when story ideas are stewing and things are happening. So to give yourself credit for that. So I think I might then use that as a nice segue to take us over to Donna, who's going to be talking about positive affirmations and the kind of importance of what we say to ourselves.
Right. Thank you. So a few of you sat in on one of the rare office hours that I did, which was around setting affirmations. And I talked a little bit about how we can state affirmations either as first person, I am a writer, the story I'm telling has value, I write today and every day, or you. So sometimes we might be saying, you are committed to your writing, you need to stay focused, you can do it. And there's actually a lot of research that was done prior to 2014 that kind of blended those two approaches to how we self-talk. And apparently, according to the researchers from 2014, 96% of us self-talk. And the way we do it actually has a really big impact on whether or not we're successful. So there are, in fact, 3 different kinds of self-talk affirmations, or 2 kinds of affirmations and 1 kind of visualization. There's first person, second person, and third person. And they each serve different purposes depending on where we are in our process and what we need for ourselves. So I'm just going to tell you what those are. And then I'm going to have you do an exercise, 3 2-minute exercises. And then it'll be a bit woo because I'm assuming that you can just intuitively know which kind of self-talk is going to be the one that's going to overcome any negative voice you have or give you that little boost that you might need when you need that little boost. So, okay, so the first thing, let me see here. well, I think it's pretty clear. So the first person self-talk are when we speak to ourselves in the I, and those affirmations work best when you generally have positive feelings about the activity that you're undertaking or the goal that you're trying to achieve. So if you've had success in the past with something and you're just trying to recreate the emotion or the feeling of that success, using I self-talk is often going to be the best way to write your affirmations and talk to yourself. The second person affirmations work best when you actually need to distance yourself from any negative feelings that you might have from a goal that you're trying to reach. So if you've tried and failed, you might want to step outside and picture you're still yourself. So if you were to close your eyes, it would still be you talking to you. You'd see yourself in your brain. And you would be saying, you need to, like, if you want to strengthen your performance or your attitudes or change your behavior. And one of the reasons that works is because even though we're ourselves talking to ourselves, we've been conditioned to, when someone says you do this or you need to do something, it's typically from an authority figure. So we give ourselves that little bit of authority, a teacher, a boss, a parent. So that's the second kind, and that's when that works. Yeah, so if something is difficult and you're having a challenge and you need self-regulation, that's a word that comes up a lot with the you talk, is self-regulation and self-control. And then the third kind, or the third person, and third person visualizations work best when you actually have to adjust your self-concept, so that idea of who you are to match a desire of who you would like to become. So that research was actually really quite interesting, and that's kind of the research. So that's the process of literally stepping outside of yourself and seeing yourself as somebody else might see you, and trying to embody the actions of that person you'd like to become. So I just want to stop for a second and make sure everyone understands the difference between the first person, which is I. The second person, it's kind of like the second person you is an internal you, and then the third person you is the external you. So it's not even you, it's an external person saying, helping you. So does that all make sense? Bonnie G, you have to unmute.
So for the third person, are you saying your pronoun or your name?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that you have to. Well, it would be as though someone were speaking to you. So, you could say you, but you could also say Bonnie. People who write books do this. Like you're being that authority who is outside of your body. I'm looking
So how is that different from second person? I'm a little confused.
Right, which I thought. So the second person is inside your head. So if you were to close your eyes and visualize the second person, you're kind of like, I can see myself inside my brain. Say that again? Somebody said something.
Let me get it for you.
Is that like your higher self?
Sorry, I'm going to... yeah, I guess the second person is in, maybe your higher self, I'm not sure of that language, but the second person is really inside your head. It's the you coming from the other side of the inside you. It's kind of like Schmeagol, like the Hobbit. It's like, anyway, that talking to yourself. But the third person you would be like imagining, it's actually, you want to be like as productive as Eileen. And so you're imagining Eileen and what I'm going to mute you, Eileen. We don't need the snorts. And you want to imagine that Eileen is saying, these are the things that you can do, that you can become. So one of them is a little bit, the third person is more drawing from an outside authority, and the second person is drawing more from pulling from your inside authority. Let's just try it and see.
I was going to say, can you give some examples, like what they might look like? That might just make it easier. Like if you were going to do the same kind of goal, like if I was
that's the whole thing. It's not necessarily the same kind of goal, right?
Yeah.
So that's the big difference is the depending on what you're trying to achieve. So
I get it.
Okay. So yeah, what you're trying to achieve in the first person is you're creating emotions and feelings. You probably want to draw on them like you're trying to recreate something you already know you can do. The second person ones are really when you want to, get a broader perspective or strengthen your performance. And the third person, which is the outside you, is kind of when you're looking at changing. It's more around changing behaviors and self-concept.
So to me, that in my book Room to Write, I have one thing that's called channeling Grace Paley. So at a certain point, I would talk about how you sometimes have to call on your mentors who are either have agreed to be your mentor or have not, and then they're the ones that are speaking. So I think that's what you're talking about. It's not really third person as in you personally. It's you finding those guides that you need to have speak to you to help you move forward.
Right. Yes. Let's try it. Let's see if it works in practice. Yes. So or I'm just gonna, sorry, I've got two screens, which is why I keep looking like I'm looking in the sky to the heavens. Anybody have questions? And I have to cough. Hold on.
Bonnie posted a good example in the chat room.
Why don't you read it so I can rest my voice?
Stop coughing. Okay, Bonnie says, I'm always home for my kids. That's the first person. And the second person is, you need to listen to your children. And the third person is, Bonnie is a good mom.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yes, good. All right, so I've got your papers. Thank you, Natasha. And I am going to set my timer for 2 minutes. And what you'll do is just free write in the first person voice. So the I, all the things that you're thinking, hearing, feeling, and believing about the quality of your writing and your writing habits. As much as possible, try to keep it positive. If little negative things sneak in, you can notice those, but we're trying to find, what you'll do at the end is see where the most positive, what feels like it will be the most valuable to you. So we'll start with that first I, okay? Clear. 2 minutes. Okay, so that's the 2 minutes for your I voice, imagining. Now, for this one, I want you to, maybe you might even have to take a couple seconds to close your eyes and just imagine that you're inside your own head. So, and I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, I'm making up the exercise, but this is based on the research lots of it goes way back, but the stuff that actually distinguishes the difference between the impact of I and second person, first person and second person, is quite compelling. And this is the way they tested it. So you imagine you're inside your own head and you're looking at yourself. And so in this close, I guess we could call it close second person, the you. So what exactly you need to do to become the writer you aspire to. So this is kind of behaviors and actions. So write it down as you need to put your butt in the chair. You need to do these things. So that's next 2 minutes for that one. All right, and the last one, Bonnie and Leslie, how in the world did you get through all three of them in 2 minutes? So the last one, what you're going to do is imagine that you're a distant observer of yourself. And again, you're speaking to the you, so that distant observer is speaking to you. And in that distant second person voice, write about the kind of person who is the kind of writer that you aspire to be. So you're focusing on attitudes and values. You're this kind of writer, and it's attitudes and values from that person out there. All right. Well, that was 2 minutes on that one now. So now take a minute, and if there's one, read over your list and see if there's one that intuitively jumps out at you as the kind of thing that you need to be hearing from yourself. And then, if you're willing, type that one, or if there are two, but type what that is into the chat, because it could help that you could end up helping other people with yours as well. These are great. So, Bonnie Jacoby, you need to stop being afraid and take risks. If you were to phrase that as an affirmation, would you say you stop being afraid and take risks, or do you still need the word need in there?
Oh, actually, I wrote it as an affirmation. Bonnie has the courage to tackle subjects that make other people uncomfortable in a delightful way.
I love it. That's fabulous. Are you going to type that one up?
It's on my thing.
It's on your thing?
It's on my thing.
Eileen, yes, be your badass. So, is it that you need to be, or I will be my badass self and make shit happen, or you are so, and I just ruined it. I just put you in the I when you're clearly in the you. Look at how terrible that was. And then Crystal is an I. I deserve time every day to work on my creative projects. And you totally see how those are really different, right? Like writing in the I to writing in the you, they are a different energy there.
Crystal? I had a very interesting experience with the you part. I absolutely could not write like that. Like as I was brainstorming, it instantly distances me from it to a point where it's no longer relevant, and it feels like someone else telling me what to do, which I have no interest in at all. So I just have this instant rebellion when I even think like that. It's like, no, if I'm using you, I'm making excuses of why I'm not owning this. And for me, that was just like an instant turnoff, and I couldn't think any further past that. So I had to go back and I did all of them as I's, because that seems to be the only way I could make it work.
Well, 12 years of Catholic school, the you resonated with me. I was like, that's what I need, is someone who's like, yes.
Isn't that funny? That's so funny. And that's very cool. I wonder if that supports the research, because you've got the success behind you, so you can draw on that success, and you can draw on the feelings of success that you already have. Eileen,
I just wanted to add, Donna, that when you did this before, I did the same thing as Crystal. Remember, we were discussing.
Yeah, you would only do the
I can't write anything in you, but this time I could. But there wasn't a lot of you. It was more just like, you know what you need to do. and so I just kind of changed the I to you for the exercise.
You're such a rebel, but I love your affirmation. So let's see, do we want to, read through a few more of these. Writing is challenging. It's not hard. Yes. So there's no you or I in there. That's just a statement of fact. Alyssa, explain yourself.
Well, okay, so one of my I's was I find writing challenging. And then one of my U's was you don't find writing isn't hard for you. But then when I tried rephasing it, it just, I don't know, it felt like taking myself out of it, made it more, I don't know, it felt
resonant?
Like better. Yeah, because it's a statement. It doesn't have anything to do with me, instead of, because I'm always saying writing is hard. That's the thing I'm always saying. So I'm trying to stop saying that. So by making a blanket statement, I take myself out of it. I don't know.
I love it. I think that makes, does anyone else resonate with that? I think that makes all my sense. You need to make your writing a priority, Kirsten. Okay, so who is telling you that? Was that the inside your close you, or was that an external you?
That was a close.
Yeah.
You. Yeah. No, that was me telling me.
All right. And are you drawing on changing that behavior from experience then, where you know that you've made it a priority before?
Yeah, definitely. I think my life is busy and things happen, but it's me who decides whether I say. I'm always saying, oh, I have a hard time saying no as an excuse for all these things that I do. But really, in the end, it's me. I have trouble saying no. So therefore, the power is mine.
Is yours.
No.
Cool. Right. Tony, you have a red kitchen timer. Use the excuse, don't forget to exercise. Do you want to pop in, Tony?
Yeah. Yep. That was close second. And part of it is just I'm really good at distracting myself. I could get a leaderboard star for that and distraction. So I'm trying to make sure that I exercise and write every day.
Okay, good. I love the close second. For me, mine was actually the distant third. That was the one that resonated with me the most, which I thought was interesting, unexpected. Mary Jane, put your writing and illustration together now and keep on learning from the kids. So is that coming from your close you or your distant?
I think that's the second person voice.
Second person.
Yeah.
Good. Well, and you've also got success that you can draw on.
Really?
Oh my. Okay. Yes.
Okay. My brain's not working too well.
We'll talk at Creative Ink and remind you of all that. Natasha, you're a writer who has lots to offer the world because you've got a unique voice and perspective and can be leading light for others going through similar struggles. Again, close, or is that the third person for you?
That was the third person, but I probably did the exercise wrong because the first and second had completely different concepts. Like I wasn't like just using the same idea and then rewriting it different ways.
Well, no, neither was I.
Oh, okay.
Mine were entirely different too. Mine were entirely different. I don't think you did it wrong.
Oh, okay.
All right. All right. Do we want to keep going? Do we want to keep going through these? Do we have time? I've not been following the time. Yeah. Okay. Crystal, do you? You're a badass who can make things happen. I think you need to say shit happen.
Oh, that was me. That was me reframing Eileen's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I also feel that, yes, I can make shit happen.
In fact, I'm going to reframe you again, Eileen. You're a badass who makes things happen. I know that. Okay, Leslie, you will have the strength to handle rejections easily. You will make the time to write on a daily basis and accept that your writing has value. You have the strength to handle rejections easily. You've already proven that. Well, okay, maybe not easily. Where are you? Where are you? Not yet. Okay, so I'm make the time and accept that your writing has value. So that was the close you, I guess, right?
Yeah.
That was the second. Does that feel like, because you've done this exercise before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this similar or different?
The I messages don't work because I don't believe them, but when someone else is telling me, it feels like it has more power.
Yeah. And that's, it's but the nice thing is it's the you that's telling you. You're not calling on the Catholic Church to tell you, which is good. Well, I mean, not that that's bad, right? It works for Eileen.
I would insert that you have permission from Donna, Eileen, and I to insert our voices whenever you need a third person authority that you can easily relate to. You have permission, artistic license, whatever it is you need. Just put us in your heads and good luck.
Then I might not end up liking you.
That's right.
Hey, if that's what it takes,
the risk we have to take.
We're in this for your growth as writers and people, so we'll accept whatever responsibility we need to take.
Crystal, you wrote, your writing is a priority. Your writing deserves to be a priority.
Yes.
Is that you, or is that on behalf of someone else? Are you rephrasing somebody?
I was rephrasing somebody but also that was on mine.
Oh, okay.
What did I put? I put I deserve time every day to work on my creative project.
Okay, so
that was, for me, that was a big one. But I also I had on my own that I have permission to prioritize my creative work, which is another way of saying the same thing. But for me, I know that's where my primary block is. So I feel more than one affirmation on the same topic is just covering my bases.
Yeah. And Alyssa, I love this. Your writing has value, all capitals. I think we could, that is to Leslie. Resonate. Oh, good. Bonnie, don't waste it, don't question it. Explain that, Bonnie Goldberg.
I just think that one of my big things that's going on for me at this very deep level is being, is questioning myself a lot. So, and it's a waste, you know, like it's not, it's a block. It's not helpful questioning, you know? So that's the most distant guide saying, you know, that I've been given this, I've been given this gift, this responsibility, not in a bad way, like a good way. Like this is what I got. And so don't waste it and don't question it.
I love it.
It's sort of like a just do it, but it's just a reminder that it's not all about me, you know, like all this insecurity and questioning and feeling really vulnerable. It's all well and good, and that's part of it. So get on with it.
I love it.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. I think that we should get Creative Academy buttons that say "Don't waste it, don't question it." All right, Marlena, I'm an awesome writer. First person. Second, you make time to write, and Marlena faces her fears and puts her butt in a chair. Yay! Want to say anything more about that?
No, those are just the things I want to do.
Yay. Well, those are the things you are. Fantastic. Donna says. All right, is that everybody? Everybody who's posted? Elisa, did you post? Did you want to not post? Okay. Everyone else did though, I think, right? Okay. All right. Destroyer of doubt monsters. That's fabulous. Okay, I'm passing it away and I'm going to mute.
All right. So what might be used? Does anyone need like a 5-minute break, refresh tea and water? Does that seem like a positive thing? And then kind of do a little brain clearing, and we're going to look ahead and do some planning for the coming season, which is always very exciting. So maybe just take a minute while you sip that water.
Okay, and welcome back to the next part of the Creative Academy retreat. We're going to get us started off with Crystal.
Okay, and since that help stuff apparently reset my asana, it'll be just 1 second. We are going to be talking about figuring out and planning what does the next 12-week year look like. So our purpose in going back and kind of reviewing how far we got last 12 weeks, what were some roadblocks, how can we overcome some of those roadblocks this time around, was all to help you prep for what we're going to do here over this next bit. And the affirmation piece also funnels into where we're having trouble or what we think might be a really good area of focus, right? So we are going to dive into that. So you might remember from last time and or other times that I got on my one thing soapbox, but we really do want to try and narrow things down to a single main focus. So whether you do that through your nail color or some other fashion, maybe nice, okay? Yeah, matching with the hat, also good. Whatever it is, whether it's a mug you're going to drink out of every day that has some sort of affirmation on it, because hey, we're writers, so we have those. Everybody who has an affirmation mug, let's share for a second. Love it, Bonnie, very nice. Wander often, wonder always. Very good. Okay, so it could be a mug, it could be your fingernail color, it could be, I know Mary Jane has a mission statement posted by her computer, or your rules of creativity, which is great. So whatever it is for you that is your way of reminding yourself what it is, the thing that you're focusing on, that's what we are going to do right now. We're going to pick what is your big accomplishment that you want to work towards over the next 12 weeks. And then we're going to incorporate some of the lessons we learned. And for me, one of the lessons I learned from this past little while was building in additional buffer times, because life will happen sometimes with great drama and a lot of inconvenience. And so it is a good idea to have built in at least a bit of a buffer, so that you have some flexibility to roll with it without being stressed about that, meaning you can't get even close to what you were trying to do. Like Alyssa was talking about, setting those giant stretchy goals is good, but we don't want to and it's actually called the what the hell effect. We don't want the what the hell effect to kick in too soon in a time period. And what that is when you're working along towards your goal, let's say you've written 5 mornings in a row, you're doing wonderfully, and suddenly there's an emergency with your pet or your child or your parent, and you can't then write the next 2 days in a row. The sort of default position is, oh, what the hell? I can't make this work anyway, so why should I try? And that's what the what the hell effect is. And that's actually what it's called in the psychology textbooks, just for the record. So it is an interesting phenomenon that kicks in really fast, like 1 or 2 days of disruption to what we think is a pattern. If we've figured out what is possible, so let's say I wanted to write 10,000 words, and that meant writing 10 days in a row, and I had to write 1,000 words a day, and that was like the absolute maximum time I could squeeze out of my life in order to make that happen. Then if one thing happens and I miss 1 day, I know I still can't make it. So that puts me in a situation of being like, okay, well, that's over then. I might as well quit while I'm ahead or behind or whatever. But if you've built in, say, 3 days of buffer into your planning, the math is going to be wrong on this. My math brain isn't cooperating today. But imagine that you had set yourself, I'm going to write 1,500 words a day, but I only need to write 7 out of those 10 words to hit my goal, whatever that number works out to be. Then you've got a buffer still. So you have 3 shots at hitting the reset button, knowing you can still be successful without even having to adjust the number. Because it is pretty frustrating, like if you have no buffer days built in and you know, okay, I just missed a day, that means I have to add 200 words to every single other day and there was already no breathing room there, then it's too much pressure and you hit the quit point, right? So as we're setting ourselves up here, we're going to work in enough buffer and enough wiggle room so that we can adjust as we need to not hit that point of, we'll call it the quit point, to not hit the quit point, since that's a nice succinct term. Okay, so for you, take a second and think about you at the end of the next 3 months. So that's pretty much April, May, June. So by July 1st, by Canada Day, or July 4th for you American friends, what do you want to be celebrating having accomplished? What is your one big thing that you want to think about focusing on for the next little while?
Does it have to be one?
You need a priority project that when picking from a bunch of things of what is my actual priority, you need a default that is going to be this. You're going to fill in some other things and you're going to set some other projects on your to-do list. But you do need to, if you could only accomplish one thing between now and July 4th, Bonnie, to feel like you had made some progress, what would that one thing be?
Okay, I guess I'm just asking because there's always two parallel paths, which is one is the actual writing and the other is the sort of other promoting, publishing, you know, that other thing. And I sort of feel like I want to have a main goal for each of those things.
Okay, that's fair. If you've got time set aside for each of those things separately, then you can have a priority for each of those things separately. That's legit. So yes, if it needs to be 2, that's okay, but you have to have a time block dedicated to the thing in order to be allowed to put a priority in it, if that makes sense. Okay. And we can talk about the show. And feel free to drop into the chat your 1 or 2 things if you have 2 areas. Okay. Goals are popping up. Excellent. Okay, so let's start up at the top here. So let's take a second and talk about what you want to do versus what you feel like you should do. And that is a really important distinction, and it can have huge implications on how you feel about everything in your life actually over the next period of time. Because if you have a should goal and you don't have a want goal, then it kind of hangs over your head, and it might drive you to actually avoid your writing time in a pretty big way and to procrastinate in other ways, which is really not what we want. So this, I think, might be more interesting, useful, illustrative if we can do it with a real thing. So are you willing to share your should and want goals?
Yes. I should query my manuscript in order for it to attract an agent and get into the publishing world. But I want to write the next book. That's way more fun than, and I know what the fears are, you know, they're all the marketing and putting yourself out and putting yourself out there for rejection.
Yeah. So let's look at that though from a practical point of view. So in terms of actual time required to query your book, right, to be sending out to agents, if we are realistically looking at that, that does not need to take every minute of your writing time for the next 3 months in order to take some action on it, right?
Well,
whereas writing The agonizing does, yes. But here's the thing. When you have a number one priority, you can give that the bulk of your time. And if you, in your mind and your heart, know that what you are working on and prioritizing is getting the next book done, then on your to-do list, you can add items like query one agent this week, right? Like, and then you're going to make progress on both, but you're not going to dread your writing time on a daily basis. So, you know, for you, that one, I think you can juggle that in a way that lets you feel like you are feeding the should monsters just enough to keep them like out of your life on a daily basis. And, you know, you've got a plan and you know where it fits. So it's not like every day you're going to have a battle with yourself about, do I spend time writing or do I spend figuring out what agent I'm going to send this to or actually sending out a query? You can dedicate a specific block of time towards the querying, and you can limit that so it doesn't get to grow and become a big scary nastiness. And then if you're choosing in the moment of, am I worrying about querying or am I actually writing the new story that I'm super excited about, that ideally you're gonna have an easy choice, right? That you're going to give yourself permission to focus on the writing because you've got time blocked off for this other stuff. You've given it a box. It's allowed to be exactly this big and it's allowed to occupy this much of each week. And your brain can check it off as having been taken care of, and you are making progress so that it's not that emotional battle, right? So does that work?
Have to do that because
our external voice of validation or whatever affirmation you need says you should absolutely write your next book as your priority, and then you you are able to also send out queries as part of your planning. So we're going to just identify the main focus now, and then we're going to supplement with some shoulds. But if the thing you're not focused on, if the thing you're focused on is not something you're passionate about, you're going to have to drag your butt to the table every single second of the next 3 months. And that is not sparking joy in your writing life, right? So if we're going to Marie Kondo our writing schedules, that should soaked task list with nothing that sparks joy on it is not where we're going to live for the most part for the next little while. So we need something driving us, some carrot, some fun thing that's going to get us to the table. And then we tack on one little like homework piece in each sort of day or week that does not get to completely overcome our excitement about being a writer and doing the fun things, because that's where the energy actually comes from. If we're not getting that refilled from our writing, and if it all becomes work, then we start to worry about how much we're getting paid per hour, and that kind of thing never got anybody anywhere. So we need to make sure it is fun and make sure it is building passion and excitement and all those good things. So, okay, what else have we got here? Maybe let's go around, and does anybody else in a conundrum where they literally cannot down what it is that we need to talk through, or was everybody able to come to sort of a single big focus and priority? Okay. So let's pop around here. Alyssa, how about you tell us what your number one priority is going to be and how you're feeling about that?
Me or Alyssa?
Yeah, Alyssa.
So my number one priority is finishing my first novel. And then submitting that to the agent and editor who've already requested it ages ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you feeling about that process?
I'd say I'm a 10 that it'll be done by Canada Day, because I feel like I'm quite close.
Awesome. All right, excellent. And Bonnie G, how about you?
So, okay. So my number one goal will be to finish the edits on my middle grade that come back from my agent. That said, I haven't gotten them yet, so I don't know when I'm going to get them. So my alternate, until that happens, I am going to work on and try to complete as much of a shitty first draft of the next middle grade novel.
Okay.
So I don't, because otherwise I'll do what I've been doing, which is spinning around waiting for this revision thing to come back to me. So screw that. I'm going to be working on a novel, either the one that is ready that I'm starting again, or the one that's coming back to me. And then my promo goal, which is going to get less time, but is going to get time, is to get posting on Medium as a way to try developing some audience and getting out there.
Awesome. Okay, so if we frame that as number one priority is to start writing your next book, because the one that's not here yet can't be a number one yet, right? So for now, we're going to start with the reality of the current moment so that your brain is fully engaged and understanding it has permission to stop waiting. So number one, write that next book. Number two, get started with blogging on Medium. And then number three is rejuggle those priorities when you receive the edits from your editor, right? And then that way your focus is clear. You have a number one and you have a number two. So if writing is not working that day, or if the gap you have is not appropriate for the writing that needs to be done, you can focus on learning a thing about Medium or setting up the next step or doing whatever it is you need to do. It's nice to have one thing as a clear priority that is creative, big work, that is creating new things and really moving you forward in a different way. And then have as a secondary priority something you can slot in bits and bites and snacks of pieces of clear time. So that's great. That seems like a really solid plan. Kirsten, how about you?
Yeah, so my number one priority is to finish the edits on my novel, which is actually a carryover from the first 3 months of the year. I had wanted to be finished and I didn't get anything done. So I have to tackle some of the issues I have around that and then refocus and sort of work the plan. Kind of set time aside every week to do that. Secondarily, though, with these short stories, because they are a little bit easier to handle, I want to, as the sort of fun project here and there, if I'm particularly struggling with the novel edits, we'll work on those and kind of see if I can have some sort of fun success and I, in some ways, practice the querying and things I'm going to need to do for the novel when I'm finished anyways,
right.
On a smaller scale with them. So I'll slot those in as I can as my secondary one.
So do you have one specific story that you're working on yet, or they are still a thing that is a mass of things?
No, there's three specific stories that short stories that are at least in first to some of them third draft form, and then yeah, and so I'm probably on the fourth draft of my novel. So they're all really tantalizingly close. It's just actually like sitting down and doing that. So
yeah, so that's good. So a priority for you is to finish and ship pieces. So if you frame it as finishing as opposed to working on, then that might let you dedicate a more complete set of energy to the first one, because it is, I mean, it's tempting and it's eventually very satisfying if you have like 6 things that are almost ready, but it's very frustrating in real time because you feel like nothing is ever getting done. So you don't get that hit of adrenaline and the celebration that comes along with actually finishing a thing. So if you could pick one that is closest to being finished, that would require the least amount of time invested or energy investment to ship it, like to have it ready to do a thing with, what would that be?
Yeah, I think actually there's a short story that's the closest. Well, yeah, the short story.
Ponder that. Ponder that. The next step will be kind of prioritizing and adding some specific tasks. So for you, just think about that, because you'll also find that your process gets revised with each one that you complete. Your completion part of the process will get tweaked with your experiences that you have with each one. And so finishing one sooner rather than later allows you to reflect a little bit on that while you're finishing up the next one, which makes that one a more effective process. So you'll see kind of exponential benefits to yourself by each one that you finish. So think about what one makes sense to start with. It could be the one you're most excited about. It could be the one closest to completion, whichever is going to work for you, but ponder that for the next step. And Elisa. AKA Kara.
Sorry, I'm like, unmute. I am going to focus on writing my shitty first draft of my next project for the next quarter. And it worked so well for the first quarter, so I'm just going to keep on that train.
Nice.
And I was saying that no matter what happens, I'm going to hear your voice and Eileen's voice and Donna's voice, and they'll keep me focused and keep me going. Apparently Donna will be nice, Eileen will be mean. I'm not sure what you'll be to me next, but we'll find out, I guess. It's a great opportunity because finally, circumstances beyond my control in my work life have made my schedule a little bit less for the next 3 months or so. So this means this can actually happen, and I'm excited.
All right. The universe and providing in weird and wonderful ways.
Weird and wonderful ways. Yay.
Excellent. And like scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, level of excitement about current story that you're going to tackle.
It's about an 8. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's good. All right. And is there anything we could do to turn that dial to a 9 or 10?
I haven't quite finished with my outline yet as to how I can see it kind of playing out.
Okay.
So I think just finishing up that over the next week or so, I think we'll dial it up to a 10.
Okay. So it's more blank spot than roadblock at this
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Just a
Need to
gap.
fill in the
Okay.
blanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Confidence level high. That's achievable.
Yes.
Natasha, how about you? What's your big thing to tackle?
I want to outline and draft the second book in my Brideship series, and I'm really excited about that because I'm so bored now with the first one. It's like, oh, please give me anything different.
Yeah, there are advantages to writing and editing different things kind of in close proximity, is that you do get to the point where you're like, really, if I have to read this one more time, I'm going to hurl. But that's good. It means you're being thorough. And what is it that is most exciting you about this next one?
Well, because I've done a lot of the heavy lifting, I've kind of developed my characters, and I have a little bit more experience under my belt, so I feel more confident. So I'm excited about it.
Okay, and in the actual story, is there a character or a setting or a situation that makes you all sparkly and lit up to think about writing that scene?
Yes, I introduce an animal. Who has is actually kind of a main character. So, yes.
Awesome. All right. Miss Eileen.
Was doing the mute thing that was happening earlier. I am really excited actually to work on the draft of the conflict book. That's my #1 priority. So kind of next for me in the nonfiction series. And I'm also really excited to be trying my hand at some fiction again. So I'm going to try some short fiction and give that a go. So kind of 2 different sides of my brain, and they're kind of excite me in very different ways. So.
Okay. And so you're doing the thing where you're splitting your time in terms of like, there's a block dedicated to the nonfiction and a block dedicated to the fiction.
Yeah. And the priority is like, if we have to fish and cut bait, first one is going to be the nonfiction. That's the priority.
Okay, excellent. And what is it that you most love about the nonfiction?
I actually have really realized, and some of it's actually been comments from people even in the room, like how much I enjoy working with other writers and helping writers. Like that just gives me a lot of happy and sparkle. And so finding some more structured way to do that and to be able to offer that in a book form is like for me really exciting. So that's it.
Nice. Excellent. Okay. And confidence level 0 to 10 that you can have that draft complete by Canada Day?
I feel actually pretty close to a 10. Like I'm trying not to give into the kind of like, oh, but I know I'm moving in April and certain things. So there's a little bit of apprehensive, but I feel like this is actually something I can get done. I may not get both done, but I can get one of these done. So, check.
The value of the number one priority.
Exactly.
You get one thing all done.
Yeah. That'll be the biggest one. So.
All right. And Mary Jane, how about your number one priority? And just one thing while you ponder that, anybody who has not yet typed it into the chat, we pull the record out of the chat to help us know what to follow up with people on and kind of how to support you. So if you haven't typed your stuff into the chat yet, that's a good thing to do when you get a quiet moment so that we have it all recorded and we're ready to make use of. All right, Mary Jane.
Okay, I wrote, I want to reform my novel and have it finished with 2 illustrated chapters, graphic novel style. Yeah, that's what I wrote.
Okay, and in your heart, in your gut, in your mind there, think about what do you know 100% that you could do of that? Like, if you're thinking about it, you were sort of hesitant in the way you expressed that. So if we're thinking about, if you had to pick one piece of that you absolutely, without a doubt, can publicly declare will be completed comfortably, what would that be?
Some illustrations to go with it. Yeah, that would make me feel better. And then, yeah, I think I'd like that. And 2 chapters, I think I could handle that. Because I think it would help me with the whole process because I've always seen it as a graphic novel. And so if I give it a try visually, and pull in all my text and what I've written, I think I can make it really, really work. I think, yes.
Awesome. Okay. We think you can too, just for the record.
Okay.
You got this. We know you got this.
Oh, thanks, Crystal. Hey, I don't know what I'd do without you guys. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you won't have to find out. We're planning on sticking around. Okay. And so then, Marlena.
Hi. So only one goal. Okay. So I'd like to complete, this is a holdover from before, but I wasn't able to really write, but to complete the first draft of my father's stories. And there's a lot of emotion there, so I have a tendency to maybe avoid that. So if I can figure out how to join the cabin, I think that in April that would be good, and then I'd complete the first draft of my father's stories. And the second goal, if I have time, well, actually, if my fun goal would be to develop my characters and do a high-level outline of my novel.
Nice, nice. Well, those sound like they would play pretty well together because that's 2 very different types of activities. So, lots of thinking time on one side of things is great if you're out for walks or whatever and focusing on your health a little bit as well. So that bouncing back time, she says, with the voice of experience, makes a really excellent time to ponder one's stories. While taking care of oneself, making soup and going for walks and, maybe lying in bed that extra half hour in the morning and thinking about your story while you're there because you're cozy, you're comfy, you're safe, you're in a good space, and just letting your mind wander when you haven't fully leapt into the responsibilities of the day is a really nice way to forward your creative work without it feeling like work. It can still feel like a bit of fun play. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, so we look forward to hearing about your adventures along that road. Miss Donna.
All right. By July 1st, mine is kind of a different kind of goal. It is to maintain what I've got going because I'm a bit of a binger and then disappearer. So my goal is for the next 12 weeks to maintain what I've been doing for the last 12 weeks, which is to write and publish at least 5 times a week. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And 0 to 10 confidence level?
3? Seriously, it's very low. I'm a quitter. I can. It's actually. I count on you all. I really do. The thing that is giving me confidence is that I'm realizing. It's not I'm realizing. I know that the feedback I get from the stories that I'm posting is what keeps me motivated, because there are readers, and I'm learning a lot that I can apply to the book that I'm eventually going to finish.
Right.
So yeah, I just have to make my I voice go away. My I voice says, "You never finish anything," or "I'm a quitter." Yeah.
Okay. Well, this voice says,
I know. I don't have a choice. I know. I know. I don't have a choice. That's not called confidence. That's called fear.
No. Well, you start with what you have to work with.
I know, exactly. That's right.
Because the reality will reflect you not being a quitter. And so one of the things that we talk about in psychology when we're looking at states of change and people's behavior change, if you can change the belief that someone has about themselves, there will become an inconsistency between the belief and the actions. And people will adjust the actions to fit the belief. So if you believe that you are a person who values your health, you will adjust your actions to fit that. If you believe you are somebody who writes every day, and I mean, we're all smart people. We can't all be wrong. And if we all believe you are capable of this, then we know
and it's exactly the same as the affirmations we were doing, right? It's the part of that same psychology. I'm being a bit flippant, but I'm also true.
I think, Donna, you need to treat yourself like a client.
I do need to treat myself like a thank you, Alyssa. And also, for the record, if you're going to be scared of one person among us, it's Crystal. It's not Eileen. Anyway.
The danger comes in being able to looking non-threatening. It works in gaming. It really does.
You might wear princess fingernails, but those things are they're witch. They're powerful. Good witch.
Yes, very true. We can make things happen. All right. So Bonnie with an E.
Okay, my main goal is to do the first draft of my second novel in my fantasy series. I am a NaNoWriMo advocate, and I know I can do at least 50,000 words during that. However, I'm on a cruise. I'm at a conference. So I am not, because we can set a goal for 3 months or 12 weeks. I know that in 12 weeks, I will have a first draft 100%. So that is my exciting and thrilling goal. And I already have about 30,000 that I cut from the first book. So it just has to be reworked in there.
Head start. Love it. And of this story that you're working on, what about it is lighting you up right now? What's the thing you're most excited about or that you can't wait to share with readers?
I'm exploring the magic in my world. So the first story didn't have magic. It hinted at it. And this story is all about magic. So I'm very thrilled. Magic and dragons. I mean, come on. What's not to love?
Awesome. All right. That sounds fun. For Lily and Marianne, who I think joined us, I can't tell if people are just showing on screen because they turn on their video or if you actually just joined us. So we're just sharing our sort of #1 priority for the next 12 weeks that we've identified what we're wanting to work on. So Lily, if you know offhand what that is, then we can dive into that.
Yes, I know. Hi. I think that for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to be doing 2 things. I don't know which one is priority actually right now. I have to decide about that. Maybe I'm going to share the whole thing. I have 2 projects that in hand right now. That one was the literary fiction I finished and I was submitting. So I just recently, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that I got feedback from a publisher as how I should be changing it. It's a very detailed feedback. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on their requested changes and resubmit to them. And I think that I'm not going to submit anything like to go for submissions anymore. I have a trip to Toronto or Brampton, Ontario for the Fold Festival to do a pitching for this manuscript. I meet the publisher as well. So I'm going to focus on this pitch and also the revisions to this draft for this particular publisher. In the meantime, I have another novella that you know probably, the A Love Affair with Detroit, that it's been under editing by Eileen. And I think that as soon as I get that, which I don't have any rush or anything right now. I think that I'm going to see how it looks like and whether I can just polish and start submitting it.
All right.
So that's my plans for the next two weeks.
Yeah. So it sounds like the number one priority is definitely getting ready for this pitching appointment and getting the rewrites done. And then the second priority, because you can't even start it until it's dependent on that coming in. So then the number two priority would be to add that into the mix at that time that it's ready.
Yes. I also have a work in progress that I feel really guilty that I put it aside, because I really love this project. It's a kind of murder mystery that I'm writing. So once I have done, I know what's going on about these two. I'll go back to that one as well.
All right, so that's the in the closet backup project. So if you can't make progress on the other two, or you're just too excited and you've got a day off, then you can write like the wind on the new fun thing. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Marianne, how about you? What's your big number one focus for the next 12 weeks?
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm in a car, so yeah. So my number one is to complete the revisions on the book that's being beta read at the moment. Oh no, not that one. A Forged Affair. Anyway, to make the final call on that and do all the revisions, and then do the formatting and publish it and launch it. It might take longer, but I'm going to have the ARCs out and pre-sales up by my original target of the 25th of April. And then there'll be some stuff to do around that. And then once that's up and out, I will turn my attention to completing the first draft of the book that I started for Nana, which is about 65% done. So I'll complete the first draft of that, so that can go through the various stages and be released in the fall, sometime September, October.
Okay, pause there. So go back. If you could only complete one thing between now and July 1st and feel like you'd accomplished something, give it a high level name, what would that be?
Release my fourth book.
Perfect.
Launch my fourth
so
book.
Absolute number one priority is release fourth book. Anything that is a to-do that supports that gets to get prioritized over other things. And that gives you permission to make it a focus. And then the other stuff, our next exercise is going to be breaking things down further and like picking specific tasks to add to our to-do list. And things like that.
Okay.
For now,
I'm sorry I can't participate fully today, but
it's all good. We're recording, and you've got Sana. You know how this next part works. People are actually going to do the next mostly on their own, so you won't be missing. You can finish it after your air brakes course and have something else to work into your novels. So that's exciting. Okay. So Tony, how about you? What is your one big thing?
Oh, just finished the third draft revisions edits of the sequel. And I just actually had a look, and I'm about 70% there. So I've got them only about 30%. I just looked at the manuscript. I'm about 75,000 words for the manuscript. So I think I've got probably 20,000 words more to edit, revise, and things. So.
Okay, and like how long do you think you would need to block in your schedule for that? Do you think that will take you all 3 months, or do you need a stretch goal?
No, I think that's another month. Yeah, I think I can finish that in another month. I'm also looking for another job right now, a full-time job. So I'm spending some time on that, but I've actually got more writing time than that. The stretch goal is I've got a third draft of a middle grade kids book that I haven't looked at for about probably a year. Eileen actually had a look at it, but I need to go through that, and because I know it drags in parts, and I'd like to start another edit on that, and have that done by July.
Nice. Okay, so number one priority, revisions on, was it book 2 or book 3?
Book 2.
Book 2, and then middle grade revisions. So it's revision season.
It is.
You're gonna pull all the weeds out of the garden of your stories and let them bloom, to pick a spring analogy.
Yes.
Okay, and I guess me should go on the record also. So my number one priority is to, instead of saying writing home, which was going to be the sequel to Maybe, I'm actually revising Maybe to try and get over a block that I have with that book. So I'm going to put the ending into the existing book and re-release it as a full-length book instead of 2 novellas. So that is my number one priority between now and July 1st. It shouldn't actually take that long because I need to write about 15,000 words. So my stretch goal is to write The Promise, which is the book and cover that I have been most excited about for the last 2 years. And I absolutely love the story and the format, and I'm super excited about that. So I'm giving myself permission to dive in. And yeah, so that is my backup stretch goal. So we have, I think, talked about before breaking things down into smaller pieces, using our calendars to schedule things in, and then actually making to-do task lists that correspond with time that's been blocked off, so that we make sure we're taking regular steps towards some of these things. So yes, I absolutely will come to a mastermind. If I don't get through it, like if I don't sit down and start writing next week on this, I'm going to come and let you guys work on my brain. I know where the block comes from. I know what it is. Hopefully where enough time passed, we'll be okay. So, but I trust in all your magical abilities. If I get there, I'll tell you all about it. Okay, so we aren't going to stay all together for all of this next part, because I think it actually is more beneficial to figure out how it works in your own world without interference. So I'm going to send you off with some homework, and then we will use some of our other tools inside of the Creative Academy to help with keeping the momentum going week to week between office hours and our mastermind groups. We can help you work through the bits and pieces, and we will have all of the usual blue pencil, red pencil stuff, all of that to help as well if anybody is stuck with edits. So what we would like to do at this point is I'm going to type into the chat what your mission is, so that you have a clear copy paste if you need it. So step 1 is to identify the smaller, and Donna wants to call them milestones, which is lovely. So like milestones that make you happy when you achieve them. So break down, and I really do mean that. Identify milestones along the way to your big goal. Okay, so that is step 1. Step 2, block the time in your calendar when you are going to focus on your project. I'm using priority project, and I'm putting it in the singular. Now, if you were the rebel type who liked a couple of priority projects, Eileen and Bonnie, looking at you, then you can just make sure you have a block set aside on a regular basis for each of those areas so that you are never putting yourself in a position of sitting down and struggling with which of these things am I actually going to focus on right now. You want to remove that choice so that it's really obvious exactly what's going to happen. And then step 3 is to break it down into specific tasks that need to happen. And the assigning deadlines, I'm going to say that's optional because there are 2 ways to manage the actual accomplishing of things. For some people, they have to have a deadline attached or they can't make any progress. But sometimes, and if you're that person, go nuts on the deadlines. Tag things in Asana, put it on your calendar, however you manage that, go for it. But if you are the kind of person who, if you set deadlines on everything, something shifts and now you've got to change all of those deadlines and that makes you feel kind of sick in your stomach and feel like you failed, which personally I can relate to, then you don't have to put all the deadlines on it. What you need is a list of all the things you need to do and a time block on your calendar. And when it says it is writing project time, you go to your task list and you look at your writing project list of to-dos and you start working through them. And it doesn't matter then what the deadline was, but you know, these are the things I need to accomplish. This is the time I have set aside for it, and I'm going to work through it consistently and solidly until I get there, right? So those are the 2 different ways to handle task management versus time management. And whichever one is going to work for you, that's great. Milestones versus tasks. Yes. So a milestone might be like, finish the first draft of a short story. That would be a milestone. And yes, definitely we celebrate those. That's what the Celebrate Your Successes area is for, all of that good stuff. Tasks might be outline, research character, you know, maybe you interview your characters, whatever the things you check off to get to the milestone. Those are the tasks. So think of those as the steps that are going to take you forward towards that next marker along your journey. We celebrate the tasks too, but usually in a smaller way by like scratching them off and getting that little rush of like, yeah, that's right. You don't win, I win. Or maybe you use Asana and you actually get a unicorn or a phoenix or whatever that pops up when you check your tasks off. Whatever works for you. Okay, so we are going to wrap up earlier than we said, because we wanted you to block off enough time that you could do the personal planning in the gap that we created for you at the end of this. So we set till 1 o'clock because we're pretty sure you're going to want a half hour at least to spend some time in breaking those things down. But before we go, we really are wanting to know what we can do to help you hit these milestones. So for us, as we do the planning for the next 3 months in the Creative Academy and what we're going to provide for you guys, we want to know what you are finding the most helpful and what would be the most helpful from us to get you to those milestones. So if it's writing sprint times or if it's, you know, office hours or whatever it is, if you can just let us know right now, what are the things that are most helpful? Is there anything in particular? Yes, you can also reach out anytime. Obviously, you can post that in the Creative Academy stuff. But if there's anything right now that you can think of, then let us know and we'll work that into our planning.
Well, I guess it really depends on what it is you're working on. Like I never used the writing sprints, but now I'm going to have to use the writing sprints to get this done. Certainly the accountability group is essential.
Okay.
And maybe, you know, in office hours that there's at least I don't know what the right thing is, but that we have a time where we can actually address things that are specific to our accountability. So for example, if it's if somebody's trying to do perma-free, that's one of the things they have on their list, then that even though we've done that before, that's something that somebody can ask for, or, you know, medium questions or whatever that is might be useful.
Perfect. And that is usually what office hours are. We started doing like mini tutorials if everybody was asking about the same thing, but there's always time in every office hours just for questions. So you can always come in and say, this is what I'm stuck on this week. What can I do?
Crystal, I'm wondering if we can make use of tasks in GLIP to nail down the things that people need to do, and then it's recorded that everybody can see. I'm just toying with the idea. Would that be helpful, not helpful, just a waste of time, or?
Yeah, we played around with it a little bit, and it was a little bit strange with the private versus public of what was showing up and not showing up. But because I know this is your area in terms of like tech stuff, if you are wanting to use it, anybody can use the private tasks in GLIP for sure. We were creating some templated tasks that weren't responding the way we were expecting them to, so we kind of abandoned that. But every person's GLIP account has the ability to put their own tasks in it. And so absolutely you can use the task function in there. Just don't set them to everybody when you've got an option for public versus private, unless it's something you want to be held accountable for and everybody to see, and then we can do that. Okay, so yes, absolutely.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I actually wanted to, I asked a question, but I also wanted to say that the fact that you and Donna and Eileen are there for our questions all the time, the office hours, they're all very big helps for me personally, and I think everybody else too. And just as an example that I want to share is that when I got that feedback from the publisher, and I am sure that if it was last year when I was not, or the year before when I was not with this group, I would be crying like, what the heck am I going to do? But since I have practiced writing, like I've been writing different things since last year, I'm confident that I can do it. So I think that the fact that you are all there for us, like at the office, from everything, from the sprints to office hours, is a great help. And I'm very confident about that.
Yay. That's great to know. Okay, so we'll keep up the office hours, we'll keep up the sprints. We're always open to like having sprints set at other times. I know that worked really well. Like Alyssa popped in and said, okay, I'm willing to host sprints for these times because I want to be accountable for the next little while. So like for Kirsten, if you know there's a time when you could dedicate to writing and you think it would help to know that you were committed and that other people might show up also, you can just let us know. We can set up those for any time and we can publicize them so that the rest of the members know that, okay, at these times people will be there. Somebody will be in the room, and then that commits you to be there and it commits them to be there, which is really valuable. That's how it all got started in the first place, was I had to write a book in a really short period of time. And I figured, okay, well, every morning, if I'm committed to other people, because if I commit to you guys, I'll be there. If I commit to me, maybe like 30% chance. So definitely it helps if it's kind of externalized. So if anybody does want to host a sprint at a certain time, we will add it to the official calendar. You can say, I want to do this for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 1 week, whatever it is that you're comfortable committing to, then we will absolutely set that up and promote it for you. So just let us know if you would like to volunteer for that. We are happy to add you in. Lily.
May I ask another question? I asked them about that pitch. By any chance, can I ask for a practice with you on E3 one day? Can I book something?
Yeah, Lily, maybe you and I can set up a time and we'll record it, because I know you sometimes can't make the office hours, but we'll record a practice pitch and then I'll talk about pitching in general in the office hours.
That would
So
be great.
you and I will chat.
So I practice for it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so how many people are going to be at Creative Inc.? Just as a question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah. So we will stay tuned for information in, just make sure you're part of the conferences and workshops team, because that's where we're going to post things about that. So if you are going to be at that conference, make sure you're in there so that you can hear about the details, etc. Otherwise, is there anything else Eileen or Donna needs to add, or are we ready to send people off to break down their specific bits and pieces?
They are free to go, but I am just putting one last call in for people. Just a reminder that we do have all sorts of support. So we have one-on-one things. We have the blue pencils, the red pencils, make use of those, the office hours, the sprints. There's the tutorials and master classes that are all online. So make sure that you check those out. That's all I have to say.
Well, and I was just going to add, if anybody needs to have the computer in front of them so that they can continue to tell the people in their houses that they're still in a meeting, I will stay here for the next half an hour and maintain this room so that you have that good excuse to keep working on your work. I know it's a thing. I know it's a thing in my house.
And on that, I will stop recording and thank everybody again for coming to the retreat, and remind people we will have another one of these in another 12 weeks.
Thank you.